Okay, so today's lesson is on finding different writing examples, writing tools, and we're going to use Ray Bradbury's A Sound of Thunder. And I want you to look at page 6. There's a lot of really great examples of figurative language, imagery, as well as others that he's used. So the first thing I want to show you is if you take a look at this paragraph right here, it came on great oiled, resilient, striding legs. Right? Obviously, it is a T-Rex, but what you're seeing here is excellent descriptor, but it doesn't stop. It towered 30 feet above the half of the trees, a great evil god, folding its delicate watchmaker's claws close to its oily reptilian chest. If that alone were all the description, that's amazing. That's great imagery because it really paints that picture for us. But Bradbury keeps on going. Each lower leg was a piston, 1,000 pounds of white bone sunk in thick ropes of muscle, sheathed over in a gleam of pebbled skin like the mail of a terrible warrior. So this is awesome imagery because there's a lot of figurative language in there. You have all type of metaphor, watchmaker's claws. You also have simile, like the mail of a terrible warrior. All right, so that's really, really spectacular. You also have each lower leg was a piston. So again, another metaphor there. But if you keep looking at that page, just above it, you also see other examples that you can use. Shh, right here, whispered by Eccles, or by the guide. This is an example that you can use for onomatopoeia. Right? Look at the sentence variety in here. You have very complex sentences. Rarely do you see a simple sentence, but when you do, a sound of thunder, it really resonates. It really makes sense. So you want to really be careful with how you use your sentence design. You can use a simple word if it really catches that moment. But you are the decider. You decide, does it work? So keep in mind that when you do write, you want to go with a lot of variety, but you want to get to the point. You don't want to say things over and over and over again. But if you are describing things, say your antagonist, say a setting, this is what you really want. You can argue that the T-Rex is part of the antagonist in the story, and look you have a whole paragraph just on the T-Rex and what it looks like. So that's a really great tool. You can also use italics if you are thinking about onomatopoeia or looking at examples of what's happening, and I'll show you a few more of that in just a few minutes. You can also take a look at examples of foreshadowing. Again, you've got in this story the indication of President Keith, and you'll see that if you take a look at page 1, all right, where they say, "Thank God Keith won." So that you have that instance there. You also have it on page 2. It's really a continuation. They just continue to talk about President Keith. Okay? And then, if you keep looking, you will see it on page 3, because they're talking about President Keith no longer existing. And also on page 4, I believe. I'm going to say 50 million years. Yeah, page 3. Here's page 3. That is a jungle of 60,055 years before President Keith. And then, of course, at the end of the story, it pops back up on page 11 when they ask who won the presidency. Not that fool weakling Keith. So you see that they have changed history. Right, so that's an example of foreshadowing. You can also do it like it's done in Dark They Were in Goldeneye, when he indicates, something happened, something happens the next day. That's a great example of foreshadowing as well. But you want it early in the story because it has to resonate. It has to really stick in the mind of the reader. Okay? So today, you've seen some examples. I would like you to go ahead and develop a little bit on your own. Um, Also, about monologue and dialogue. Okay? Be careful with how it's structured. In the short story, that's not how you're going to write it. You need to take a look at how your novel is written because that will make more sense. But the rule of thumb, and we're going to do a mini lesson on this on Wednesday, is that every time a different person speaks, it's its own line of dialogue. Okay? So that's really important. Again, take a look at your novels, see how that's formatted, and you can use it that way. Okay? So the rest of the period, I'd like you to go ahead. You may use a laptop and begin developing your story. I'd like you to type up your plot first, so you have that. And in Google Drive, I'd like you to name this creative story. Don't share it with anyone yet. Okay?